Shalom everyone and welcome to Busisiwe, which is Baruch in Hebrew. My name is Abigail. We are continuing with the series which we started about 3 weeks ago entitled What is in the Name? In today's teaching, we'll be focusing on the name of the Son. The past 3 weeks, we learned about the Creator's name, how it is pronounced, the significance of the name, how the letters of the name, the meaning of the letters of the name, the meaning of the name itself, and the fact that it was removed from the Bible, removed by the translators and replaced with the title. Now, what's interesting is that 𝐤𝐿𝐼, otherwise known as Solomon, wrote this as can be found in the book of Proverbs, chapter 30, verse 4, and it reads, "Who has gone up to the heavens and come down? Who has gathered the wings in his fist? Who has bound the waters in a garment? Who established all the ends of the earth?" So we obviously know that it is a creator who established all the ends of the earth. It is the creator who bound the waters as in a garment. It is a creator who gathered the wind in his fist. But now, 𝐤𝐿𝐼 or Solomon, he asked a pertinent question and he says, what is his name? This question that 𝐤𝐿𝐼 or Solomon is asking is the very same question that Moshe, otherwise known as Moses, asked, as recorded in the book of Shemot or Exodus chapter 3 from verse 14 to 18, when Yahuwah revealed himself to him through the burning bush and was sending him to Yasharal, sending him rather to Mitzrayim, and to say to Pharaoh, "Let my people go." And sending Moshe as well to Yasharal to tell them that the Allah of your fathers, Abraham, Yitzhak, and Jacob, has sent me. Moshe asked the very same pertinent question. He says, okay, I'm going to go and say that the Allah of your fathers has come and said that he's delivering you. They're going to ask me, what is your name? What must I say your name is? That's how important the name is. And this is exactly the same question that 𝐤𝐿𝐼, thousands of years after the incident of Moshe or Moses, he is still asking the question. Now, the question that now 𝐤𝐿𝐼, otherwise known as Solomon, is asking is twofold. He's not only asking the name of the Creator, but he's also asking his son's name, because he says, what is his name? And what is his son's name, if you know it? 𝐤𝐿𝐼 acknowledged, prophetically it was revealed to him that the Creator has a son, and the son has a name. And now, the reason why 𝐤𝐿𝐼 is asking this question was actually being prophetic about it, that it's gonna come to a time where we will not know the Creator's name. We will not know the Son's name. And the reason why, the question that is being raised by 𝐤𝐿𝐼 when he says, what is his son, what is his name, referring to the Creator, and what is his son's name? He's starting with the Creator first. He says, what is his name? What is the Creator's name? And that's why even in our teaching, the past 3 weeks, we started with the Father's name. We started with the Creator's name. Because once you know the Creator's name, then you will know the Son's name. Hence, the 𝐤𝐿𝐼 is asking this pertinent question, starting with what is the name of the Creator? And then what is his son's name, if you know it? Now the question, when the statement where he says, or rather the question when he says, if you know it, because a lot of people he was prophesying here, 𝐤𝐿𝐼, he was speaking by the inspiration of the Ruach of Yahuwah, that it will come a time where the people will not know the Creator's name, neither will they know the Son's name. And the importance of knowing the Father's name is that you will then know the Son's name. So if you want to hide, if you want to conceal the Father's name, you automatically hide and conceal the Son's name. Why? Because the Son's name is in the Father's name. The Son's name is in the Father's name, or the Father's name is in the Son's name, put differently. If we read the book of Shemot, otherwise known as Exodus, from chapter 23, from verse 20 to 21. Shemot or Exodus, chapter 23, from verse 20 to 21. This is the time where Masha, otherwise known as Moses, is giving final instruction to Yasharel concerning them entering the promised land, because Yahuwah had already revealed to him that as a result of disobeying him, Masha will not enter the promised land. So he's speaking the last words, and as that is happening, Yahuwah is then speaking through his son Masha. Yahuwah is speaking through Moses and counseling them concerning what was to happen. And it reads, Yahuwah is speaking, he's saying, I quote, "See," obviously he spoke in Hebrew, but it's now been translated to English. But he spoke and said, "See, I am sending a messenger before you to guard you in the way and to bring you into the place which I have prepared." So who has prepared the way? Yahuwah has already prepared the way. In him having prepared the way, him having prepared the place, not just the way, but the place where they're going, he's not letting them to go by themselves. He's not letting them to go alone, but is giving them a messenger who will go before them, who will guide them in the way and bring them into this place that Yahuwah has prepared already. Then Yahuwah says, be on guard before him. Before who? The messenger that I'm sending before you. The messenger who will guide you into the way which I have prepared for you. Obey his voice. Do not rebel against him, for he is not going to pardon your transgressions, for my name is in him. So Yahuwah is telling us, my name is in him. So if you can know the name of the Creator, then you will know the name of the Son. Going to answer the question in Proverbs or Marshall chapter 30 verse 4, where Shalama said, what is his name and what is his son's name, if you know it? So if you know the Creator's name, if you know the Father's name, then you will know the Son's name. For Yahuwah says, my name is in him. And now also when you read the book of YaHUSHA himself, the Son, he says, I have come in my Father's name, and you do not receive me. If another comes in his own name, him you receive. He says that he has come in the Father's name, for the name of the Father is in him. And he says, if another comes in his own name, him you receive. And some people might say, no, he was not talking about the literal name. He was basically referring to, he is coming in the Father's authority, is representing the Father. He is an ambassador he's sent by the Father, he's the messenger of the Father. That also is true. And that's why in last week, when we're teaching about the name, we did say that the name is not just about the pronunciation, but it is about what the name represents. It speaks of the character of the person. It speaks of the nature of the person. It speaks of the authority of the person. It speaks of the reputation of the person. It speaks of the esteem of the person. Yet the name, as in what you call this name, is also as important. So the reason why we emphasized this last week is that we are realizing a lot of people, they know the name and they can speak the name. They know the name of the Creator, that it is YaHUSHA, and they use they call on the name of YaHUSHA, and then they know the name of the Son, that his name is YaHUSHA, and they call also on the name of YaHUSHA, but their lifestyle is not in line with the name that they profess. Their conduct, their behavior is not in line with the name that they confess. So to what extent then that you're having kind of like a minimum requirement, but when you have that access, you're not going all the way with the information, with the knowledge that you now know. So yes, this question, the statement made by YaHUSHA in YaHUSHA, otherwise known as John chapter 5 verse 43, it's twofold. He is speaking when he says, I've come in my Father's name and you do not receive me, but if another comes in his own name, him you would receive. He was speaking the one aspect of the literal name, that when YaHUSHA said, my name is in him, and now saying that if somebody else come with another name, you find it easy to receive. It also speaks of the authority that the Father, when also in Exodus or Shamoth chapter 23 verse 20-21, when he says that my name is in him, he's also speaking twofold. He's speaking of the literal name, and he's also speaking of what the name represents. Basically saying that my authority is in him. I have given him, I've delegated my authority to him. My essence is revealed in him, is in him. As the book of Hebrews says that YaHUSHA is the visible image of the invisible Allah, that he is reflecting the Creator that we do not see. He is the word of YaHUSHA. So that's what it, all the times people are only looking at one aspect and despising or disputing the other. No, it all speaks from the literal name as well as what the name represent. Now, going back again to the question, the pertinent question that you started with, where Shalama or Solomon said in Proverbs or Marshall chapter 30 verse 4, what is his name and what is his son's name if you know it? As I said again before, he was prophesying that it's going to come a time where the people do not know his name. Not only do not know his name, the Creator's name, but they also do not know their son's name. And this is exactly the situation that we find ourselves in our times and in our generation. And as the scripture says, there is nothing new under the sun. What has been is what will be, nothing new under the sun. In our times, we are seeing that the translators of the Bible have removed the name of the Father and have replaced it with the title Lord, and have replaced it with God or God. Now, we spoke also about this in the previous week, that they made you aware that they've removed his name and they have replaced it. And this you can find on the preface. Like I said last week, again, I was reading here, this is a New King James Bible. And if you look through the preface, this first 3 3-5 pages or so of the Bible, most people, they don't read the preface, and I even highlighted it here. That's when they're acknowledging that the covenant name of the Creator, which is in Hebrew, they are saying the covenant name of the Creator, which is a Hebrew name, was removed and replaced by Lord or God. And in the last week's question, I was emphasizing as to why did they remove it? It was a Hebrew, it is a Hebrew name, it was a Hebrew name, it has not changed, it's not translated, and they decided to remove it totally and replace it with a title L-O-R-D, or Lord and God. And at the time when they removed it, it was appearing in our scriptures more close to 7,000 times, if not more. But they've told you that they removed it. Here is the linkage here, or the link rather. I said earlier on, if you know the name of the Creator, then you will know the name of the Son. Then you'll answer that question that is asked by Shalama, otherwise known as Solomon, in Proverbs chapter 30 verse 4, or Marshall chapter 30 verse 4, where he says, what is his name and what is his son's name, if you know it? Why? Because YaHUSHA said in Exodus, or Shamot chapter 23 verse 20 to 21, he says, for my name is in him. So if you can remove his name, if you can remove the replace of the Father's name, if you can conceal the Creator's name, if you can hide the Creator's name, then you hit two birds with one stone. Automatically, then the name of the Son will not be known. The name of the Son will be concealed, will be hidden, or will be replaced, just as they did with the name of the Father, because the two are linked. Now, this is what the translators have confessed, as found in not only in the King James Version, but I'm reading here from the New King James Version, where they're saying that it was they removed his name and replaced with Lord or God, but also in the NIV, as well as the ESV and the other translations, you'll be able to see that in the preface of the Bible, they are acknowledging that they replaced his name. So this isn't happening in our times. I said earlier on, there is nothing new under the sun. What has been is what will be. In the early assembly, after the ascension of YaHUSHA, after the ascension of the Son, the Creator's Son, the Pharisees forbade the mentioning of the name. They forbade the speaking of the name, the calling on the name, that name must not be mentioned at all. Why? And let's read what they said. And this is found in the book of Acts, chapter 4, from verse 14 to 18. So we're going to be reading in Acts chapter 4, verse 14 to 18. This is the incident after Shimon, otherwise known as Peter, because his name should have been translated as Simeon, because it is in Hebrew, transliterated Hebrew is Shamaun, which would have been Simeon, but they're calling him Peter. He had healed the 40-year-old man, and everybody was asking him what happened, and he's constantly explaining it to say, I don't know the man, but he said, pick up your mat and go, and so forth. And then also this particular healing, sorry, that was now the one that I spoke about. That's when the healing was performed by YaHUSHA himself. But this particular one found in the book of Acts, chapter 4, it was done by Shamaun, otherwise as known as Simeon or Peter. Let's read, and it says, and seeing the man who had been healed standing with them, they could not contradict it. They could not contradict that he had been healed. And then verse 15, but when they had commanded them to go aside out of the council, they consulted with one another. The Pharisees consulted with one another. They consulted with one another, verse 16, saying, what shall we do to these men? For indeed, that an outstanding miracle has been done through them is apparent to all those dwelling in Jerusalem, and we are unable to deny it. Now, verse 17 says, Acts chapter 4, verse 17, it then reads, but in order that it spreads no further among the people, let us strongly threaten them to speak no more to anyone in this name. I don't know why people are missing this part. The verse 17 says, these are the Pharisees, these are the council that have come up with this strategy, that there is evident that there is power in the name, because they call him with a Hebrew name. The Hebrew name being YaHUSHA, that people were delivered through the name of YaHUSHA. People were healed in the name of YaHUSHA. Nobody can dispute that. Now they're like, what are we going to do? Because the evidence is apparent. Then they say, but in order that this name spreads no more, because they were against it spreading. In order that it spreads no more further among the people, let us strongly threaten them, those that are speaking the name. Let's strongly threaten them to speak no more to anyone in this name. So they forbade the disciples. They forbade the Shalachim, otherwise known as apostles, that they must not proclaim this name. In our times, this name has now been replaced with Jesus. And I'm going to explain that when they realized that strategy of threatening and saying that this name must not be mentioned, it did not work. Then they're like, okay, fine, what's another strategy? Let's give them the name that they're going to believe that it is the name. Meanwhile, it is not. As we spoke, as we're starting the past 3 weeks, that the Father's name is a Hebrew name. Not only did we speak about the Father's name, we also spoke that when YaHUSHA revealed himself to Shaul, otherwise known as Paul, in Acts chapter 26, he spoke in Hebrew and he said, Shaul, Shaul, why are you persecuting me? And then Shaul said, who are you, Aduni, or who are you, Master? And he replied and says, I am YaHUSHA, whom you persecuting. I am YaHUSHA. He didn't say I am Jesus. There was no name Jesus then. We spoke about it, that the name, the letter J, only came with the grammarian or the author from Italy. His name was Trissino, around 1524. Otherwise, there was no letter J. So they didn't call on the name Jesus. But the device that when they realize that they cannot continue threatening the people anymore, they say, okay, well, let's give them something that's going to make them believe that it is the real deal. Meanwhile, it's not. But we have other way achieved the purpose that his true name does not spread anymore. And that also did not only start with replacing with Jesus, it started by removing the name of the Father from the scriptures and replacing it with Lord and replacing it with God, because they knew that his Father's name, that his name, as Yahuwah says that in Shamot or Exodus 23 verse 22, he says, for my name is in him. So if you can remove the name of the Creator, then you won't know the name of the Son, for the Son's name is found in the Father's name, as also YaHUSHA said in YaHUSHA chapter 5 verse 43, I have come in my Father's name, but you do not receive me. If another one comes in his own name, him you receive. People find it easy to accept the name Jesus, but they question the name of YaHUSHA. Exactly what YaHUSHA said, that if anyone comes in any other name, you find it easy to accept. But if I come in my Father's name, then you rejecting. Verse 18, as we continue with Acts chapter 4, verse 18 then says, and they called them and commanded them not to speak. The Pharisees, the council, they called the emissaries, or the shalachim, otherwise known as the apostles, they called them, they were led by Shamma'un or Simeon, otherwise known as Peter. They called them and said to them and commanded them, saying, not to speak at all, nor teach in the name of YaHUSHA. They were not to speak at all, nor teach in the name of YaHUSHA. Why? Why they did not have to speak in this name? No, teach. They had to threaten them. And then you say it doesn't matter, and you say that no, he understands me. No, he doesn't. Nothing new under the sun. That was happening then, it's happening now, and you're accepting it and you're finding ways of justifying it. And we will not quit. We will not be silenced. We will continue speaking in the name. Not only speaking in this name, but also teaching about this name. Teaching in this name. Because this is the only name which has been given to men for salvation. It is the only name, not a translated name, not a replaced name, no whatever version of the name, for the name does not change, wherein people can be saved, people can be delivered, as it says in the book of Acts. It is the only name, as it's also said by prophet YaHUSHA, otherwise known as Joel, in chapter 2, where he says that in mine whosoever calls on the name of Yahuwah shall be delivered. Whosoever call in that time, in that day, whosoever call on the name of Yahuwah shall be delivered. That's the name that will continue teaching, because there is deliverance in the name. We are called to proclaim and to teach on this name. We went through a lengthy teaching last week as to the importance of knowing and using the name. Psalms 91 says that because you have cleaved to me and you know my name, you will call on me and I will answer you. When you're in distress, I will set you free. And he says that I will protect you because you have known my name. That's what most people left the Psalms 91, but they miss that part that says these are all benefits that you're going to have: protection, safety, deliverance, life, and life forevermore will come because you know the name. Not only do you know it, but you call on this name. Not only do you call on this name, but you understand and you know the significance and the meaning of the name and what it represents, and your lifestyle is in line, is representing that which the name stands for. So that's the important part about knowing the name of the Father, as well as in turn knowing the name of the Son. As I said in the previous week, particularly last week, we went into detail in terms of breaking down the name of the Father. So today, now that we understand the importance of the Son and the name of the Son and how it is linked to the Father, we're also going to be doing the breakdown on what does the name of the Son mean? When you say YaHUSHA, what does it mean? And we'll also be looking at comparison of other variations such as Yeshua, because other people say, okay, it's not Jesus, then it's Yeshua, and why Yeshua is also incorrect. We're going to start in the book of Matthew, otherwise known as Matthew, chapter 1 from verse 20 to 21. This is a time where the Malak, otherwise known as a messenger, or most people know it as an angel, was sent to Yusuf or Joseph concerning the pregnancy of Miriam, whom they called Mary, because YaHUSHA was thinking he's just gonna put her away and not go ahead with marrying her after discovering that she is pregnant. So Matthew then chapter 1 from verse 20 to 21, or Matthew chapter 1 verse 20 to 21, it reads, "But while he thought about this, see, a messenger of YaHUWH appeared to him in a dream, saying, Yusuf, or Joseph, son of Dawood or David, do not be afraid to take Mariam, as your wife, for that which is in her was brought forth from the Ruach HaKodesh, or the Holy Spirit. She shall give birth to a son, and you shall call his name YaHUSHA." From the word go, Yusuf was told that that which is conceived by Mariam is not of a man, but it is of the Ruach HaKodesh. And she's gonna give birth to a son, and you shall call his name YaHUSHA, for he shall deliver his people from their transgressions. Other version says, for he shall save his people from their transgression. As we've been knowing, studying about the importance of the name, every single time we said that the name not only speak of the current event or context of what was happening at a particular time, but it is also prophetic of that which would happen. So in this particular case, the name YaHUSHA was prophetic in that he would deliver his people from their transgression. So it's something that was still to happen. And that you cannot change that name because it has a specific meaning. Now, the Hebrew word for deliver is YaHUSHA. Hence, the messenger spoke in Hebrew, because we know that we're reading this now, it's been translated to different languages, but when the Malak, otherwise known as a messenger or an angel, he spoke in Hebrew. So hence we are now explaining when he said the name shall be called YaHUSHA, what, and for he shall deliver his people. What does deliver mean in Hebrew? And that means YaHUSHA. He said his name shall be called YaHUSHA, and we can see the Father's name in the Son's name, because remember, the Father's name or the Creator is YaHUWH, and the Son's name is Yah. So the common factor between the Father's name and the Son's name is Yah, which is translated in our Bibles as I am. YaHUSHA, YaHUWH, Yah. And then YaHUWH, meaning I am life, or I am the one who is, who will be, who was. I am self-existent. I am eternal. It speaks of the letter H or Hey. It means breath. It means life. So he is not only the giver of life, but he is life. I am life, and because I am life, I give life. I am, and I will be, and I remain as I am. And that's why we read in the Revelation also last week, chapter 1 verse 8, he says that I am the Aleph and the Tau. In Greek it is written as I am the Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end, the one who was, the one who is, the one who will be. That's him, YaHUWH. And now the name YaHUSHA, we also see that it means Yah as an abbreviation for the full name being YaHUWH, and we also discussed it last week that the full name is YaHUWH, but the shortened version of it is Yah, which could be translated as I am. So YaHUWH is deliverer. So the Father's name YaHUWH is in the Son. For YaHUWH is deliverer, Yah is deliverer. So the Father's name is in the Son. So now, when you just, what I've just said, you can see the correlation between Yahuwah and YaHUSHA. Yahuwah and Yahuwah is deliverer. And then the question is, when you put in Jesus there, where do you see Yah in Jesus? Where do you see Yahuwah in Jesus? How do you find the Father's name in Jesus? You can't. It's not there, because that's not the name of the Son. The name Jesus was derived from a Latin word, 𝐤𝑅. I explained this again last week, that the letter J was what could be written as the letter. Let me see if I could, I've got a pen and a paper here. So if you write, I'm not sure how you're going to be able to see it on your side, but if you write I, so this is I here. Hopefully you can be able to see it. It's a line going down and a dot. That's I. A line going down and a dot. That's I. So when Trissino, this grammarian author who was from Italy, introduced the letter J around 1524, he basically curved from this bottom of the line. Now you can see from I, that's where J comes from. So that's how the letter J happened. And now, so how this letter, before it became a J, it would have been written then as I-E-S-U-S. It would have been written this way, I-E-S-U-S in Latin, which was translated from Greek being iosos, which is I-E-S-O-U-S. So this is this would have been Greek, and this would then be Latin, right? So from Greek it was I-E-S-O-U-S. That was Greek, and then translated then to Latin to be I-E-S-U-S, iesus. And then when this guy, this Italian guy in 1524, Trissino, the Italian guy, he then basically, as the letter J has been introduced, then this then became that. So it's now Jesus, which was iesus before. So that's basically the name Jesus, how it came about. And now we spoke about this, that his name remained the same yesterday, today, and forevermore. His name does not evolve with time, that someone can just decide in the year 1524 that, oh, I think I'm going to change this to J. No, it doesn't. It revolves with time. And that's why when you read the first edition of the King James Version, which was a 1611 version, first edition of King James 1611, you won't find the letter Jesus there, because at that time they still had the original Latin version, which is iesus, which was before the J was kept, which is which was written as this I-E-S-U-S. So that's what you would have in the yes, it will be, this is what you would have iesus before the J happened in the 1611 King James version. So the name Jesus started appearing around 1628, which was the 4th edition of the King James Version. So, but if you look at the first edition, second edition, third edition, the name Jesus was not there. So why you so hold up to saying the name Jesus is power? There's power in the name of Jesus, salvation in the name of Jesus. That name was not there. That name was invented and only appears in the scriptures, the King James Version in particular, only in the 4th edition. So it was actually the letter J itself became prominent about 400, 500 years ago. 400, 500 years ago, that's when it became prominent. But other than that, it was not known. And we can see that this is not just attacking the name Jesus, but you can see the trend even on the name James. The name James, the Latin variation of James was 𝐉𝐅𝐷. Now, again, if we try to, I think I would have run out of space here. Let me see if I can make it smaller here. And then you can see when you write 𝐉𝐅𝐷, it's actually I, sorry, it's 𝐉𝐴𝐶𝐂𝐵𝑈𝑠. There's it. So this was before the letter J was introduced. You're having 𝐉𝐅𝐷, 𝐉𝐅𝐷. And then when they change then the letter or introduce the letter J, so which is the curving part here, then it became 𝐉𝐅𝐷. And they're most, especially here in South Africa, we know many Afrikaners whose names are 𝐉𝐅𝐷. And then in English, it would have been translated as Jacob, which is a little bit of a confusion to say, why did they not just translate it then in English to be Jacob? So now you have Jacob and then you have James. But anyway, such people's names, they have a right to change their names as they feel right, but it should not be, and let alone on the Creator's name, and we cannot tamper with his name nor his son's name. And we also learn from the book of Numbers. It's actually the Hebrew name for the book of Numbers is 𝐷 or Numbers. Here we find that it was actually Masha, otherwise known as Moses, who changed YaHUSHA's name. And then he changed his name from YaHUSHA, which means deliverer, or which speaks of deliverance, who was the son of Nun, and he changed his name to be YaHUSHA. Read with me to the book of 𝐷 or Numbers chapter 13, verse 16. It reads, "These are the names of the men whom Masha sent to spy out the land. And Masha, or Moses, called YaHUSHA, who is known as Hosea." Again, all these names were changed because to move us away, to derail us away, to distract us, because if the name YaHUSHA remained as YaHUSHA, we would be able to link it to YaHUSHA and be able to link it to Yahuwah. But if you just say Hosea, wow, Hosea, you're just so lost. It's so far from YaHUSHA, which is so far from Yahuwah. But this was all the pattern, as we spoke also last week, even how the names of the slaves that were taken through the transatlantic slave trade, their names which had the Ya in it or the Yahu in it, they had completely changed their names. And you can see their registers, where who bought them, in what ship they were taken to, who was their master, where did they land, how old were they when they taken in Africa, the gender, whether male or female. All those details are found. If you go on any search engine, you'll be able to find that their names had Ya or Yahu in them. One of the people that people of my age will know, the R&B singer Aaliyah, who died at a very young age. I think she died in a plane crash. Aaliyah, you can see Ya in her name. You can see Ali. Actually, the prophet Elijah, who's called Elijah, his Hebrew name transliterated is Aaliyah. And there's so many of them. We went through these names last week of the people's name that had been changed, not only from the transatlantic slave trade, but even in the scriptures where it's now Isaiah or Jeremiah with an IAH as compared to YAH. All that was intentional, systematically to remove the Father's name, and by removing the Father's name automatically also removed the Son's name, for the Son's name is in the Father's name and the Father's name is in him, the Son. Now, one might ask the question and say, okay, if when we read the book of Forbade or Numbers chapter 13 verse 16 that Masha or Moses changed his name from YaHUSHA, who's now called Hosea, and then said and added Yah to his name, so basically he's now YaHUSHA, the son of Nun. Then you ask yourself, so how then the name Joshua came about? There is just no Joshua in Shah, as we spoke about earlier on, which means deliverance. But if there was any error or there was any clear consistency in what the translator then they did, they should have then called YaHUSHA's name. They should have then translated the YaHUSHA's name to Joshua, not Jesus, because you could see that it's the same name Joshua, and that is linked to deliverance. It is obviously translated in English. In Hebrew, it's YaHUSHA or it's YaHUSHA. So now, where's the name Jesus then fitting in here? Nothing, not at all. So these are some of the places that we are able to see that the intention behind hiding the name and replacing it. So what happened here is that not only did they remove the name of the Son, but they actually replaced it with name Jesus that has no bearing whatsoever to the Father's name, and therefore the meaning, the essence of what that name represents and what it means. Then someone might then ask the question, okay, now we understand that it's not, and please don't take my word for it. There's so much evidence and there's so much teaching available out there. Most people have access to internet. Research these things. Just go and Google it, or whatever, ChatGPT, whatever search engine that you're using, and just put in the name YaHUSHA, and then you will see how often it comes up, as it can be found also the meaning in Strong's Concordance H3068 for Yahuwah, and then Concordance Strong's H3091. So 3068 for the name of Yahuwah, and then 3091. So start with H because H is for Hebrew. H3068 for Yahuwah, and then Concordance or H3091. You just put that. Don't even have to put Concordance. You don't have to put Strong's. Just type on your search engine H3091. It's going to provide so much explanation of the name of YaHUSHA. Put in H3068. It's going to provide so much explanation about the name of Yahuwah. Now, one then could be saying, all right, now I accept, or I hear you, okay, that Jesus is not his name. Jesus is not the Son's name. So what about Yeshua? Can I call him Yeshua? Then a lot of people call him Yeshua. They even have songs saying Yeshua. What is Shua? If you look at Strong's Hebrew Concordance 7768, H7768, Shua means to cry out in the context of crying out for help or to scream. So what do Yeshua or Yehoshua or Yeshua all have in common? We see that Shua is actually a suffix that means to cry out. That means to cry out or to scream out for help. But the Malak said, his name shall be YaHUSHA, and then we defined what YaHUSHA is, that the name deliverer means Yasha, or it means yes, it means Yasha, to deliver. So there's a difference between YaHUSHA and Shua, as I've just explained. One, the latter refers to screaming out or shouting out for help, which is found in Hebrew Concordance 7768. And then Shua is actually a suffix, as I've explained, that could be seen in these other names. That does not mean, and it's not the name of the Son. This suffix brings about confusion to the knowing of the branch of Yahuwah, the Son of Yahuwah, who the Father said, my name is in him. There is no Shua in Yahuwah. There isn't. So the correct suffix is Sha, not Shua. And we can find Sha in Strong's 3468. Strong Hebrew Concordance 3468, that's where you find Sha, which is YaHUSHA, as I said, meaning salvation or to deliver. This also confirms that the Messiah's name is YaHUSHA, which means Yahuwah saves or Yahuwah delivers. Remember what the messenger said to Yusuf or Joseph. He said, for he shall deliver his people from their transgression. Another example can be seen also in Yeshaya, who is known as Isaiah. Yeshaya, it's not Yeshua, no, it's Yeshaya that is known as Isaiah. Husha, it's not Hushua, no, it's Husha. So it's the suffix sha, not shua. And lastly, there is no letter E in Hebrew but A. And I know a lot of the versions, in as much as we are learning to move away from the Lord and God Bibles, but a lot of them has Elohim, has El, and that also is mistranslation, because it is supposed to be Al. So it's Elohim, not Elohim. It's Al, not El. It's actually Allah, because El is in Hebrew, it's Lamad, and A is Alaf. So it's not EL, it's AL. And that's another way of seeing that it was an error, the Yeshua, because it's not Ye, it's Ya. And it's not Shua, it's Sha. So it's not Ye, it's Ya. It's not Shua, it's Sha. So it's not Yeshua, it is YaHUSHA, which means I am deliverer, or which means Yahuwah is literal translation from the Father's name is Yahuwah is deliverer, or Yahuwah delivers, or Yahuwah is saves, or Yahuwah is salvation. Sadly, we can now see that the changing of Hebrew names was systematically designed to hide the Creator's name. It was meant to hide the meaning of for translators knew the power in knowing and understanding the meaning of the words. So this was not, it was not coincidental. It was not by error. It was the way it is done so systematically. There was an intent that they were working towards, and then they achieved, because it's not only in the name of the Creator, but it's also in the name of the Son. Not only in the name of the Son, but in the name of all the Hebrew people that are in the scriptures, like I spoke, Jeremiah, Isaiah, Obadiah, and so many others, Hezekiah, and lots of them that were changed from YAH to IAH, not only in the biblical or scriptural context, but even when you look at the registers from the transatlantic slave trades, their name were also that had made an example of Aliyah, who was an R&B singer, and there's so many others that have the name Yah or Enya or Enyahu, whose name also were changed. Also, you can refer to last week's teaching on the issues of the names being changed. So this was meant, was systematically designed to hide the Creator's name. By hiding the Creator's name, the name of the Son will also be hidden. That's why it was done consistently. It was meant to hide the meaning, because the translators knew the power in knowing the name, and not just knowing the name, but understanding the meaning behind the name. So this is what now we are, as we conclude in today's teaching, with all the information that you now know, it is up to you. What are you going to do with this information? YaHUSHA said that my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. Now this knowledge has been brought forth before you. Are you going to be like a person who looks at himself in a mirror and afterwards have forgotten how you look like? Because if you don't apply what you have learned, you are just as in the book of YaHUSHA, otherwise known as Jacob, or now called James. He says that. He says anyone who hears the word but does not do it is as good as someone who looks at himself in a mirror but afterwards has forgotten how they look like. Now you've heard, and I spoke earlier on that YaHUSHA said that in Matthew 24, this message of the kingdom, this message of the reign of YaHUSHA shall be proclaimed in all the earth, in all the earth, as a witness. Why as a witness? So that no one can say that they did not know. For YaHUSHA is a just judge. He cannot judge people unfairly. He cannot judge people unjustly. He will give you an opportunity to know, and then you have a choice, knowing then what do you do with the information. Are you going to reject it? And if you reject it, you'd reject it to your peril, or you're going to embrace it and start walking in the truth that was previously hidden, that was previously concealed, and it is now being revealed. If you think about it right now, as I said, this is now closing, and this is the last scripture that we're going to be closing with. If we read the book of Acts, chapter 9, verse 24, Acts 9, verse 24, it tells us that the Greeks wanted Shaul actually the book of Acts, the book of Acts chapter 9 verse 29, they wanted to kill Shaul, they wanted to slay Shaul. And they wanted to slay Shaul because he was reasoning with them and telling them of the name of YaHUSHA. Let's read. It says that Shaul, otherwise known as Paul, was speaking boldly in the name of YaHUSHA and disputed against the Grecian, or against the Greeks, but they went about to slay him. They went about wanting to slay him. They went about wanted to unalive him because he was disputing with them. He was disputing against them as he was speaking boldly the name of YaHUSHA. Now, if the very same Grecian, if the very same Greece were the ones that wanted to slay or unalive Shaul because he was boldly proclaiming and teaching on the name of YaHUSHA, how could the same people, how could the same Romans with their Latin language, how could the same Grecians or Greeks with their Greek language, how can they be the one that are now teaching us of the Messiah? How can be the one that are now teaching us of the Creator? How can they be the one now showing us the way to the Father? How can be the one that are now showing us and telling us what is the name of the Son is? Yet they were the very same people that persecuted the disciples against them telling the truth. They were the very same people, the Romans and the Grecians, that were persecuted the disciples against the name of YaHUSHA being declared. The same that in our times as translators, they removed his name and replaced with Lord and God. The same in the early assembly that threatened Shamayun or Simeon, or otherwise known as Peter, and the apostles and the Shalachim or emissaries that was preaching with that they must not speak in that name ever again, nor teach in that name ever again. But what did the apostles or the Shalachim messengers said, Shamayun and known as Peter and the others? They said, you decide whether we should obey you or we should obey the Allah of our fathers, Yahuwah, who has sent us, and his son in whom we proclaim this message of the kingdom in. You decide who are we going to obey. Let it be known that we will not obey men. We will not obey men, but we would obey him. And that's what we are doing right now, that we are going to confess and proclaim and teach on the name of Yahuwah. Proclaim, confess, declare, sing on the name of Yahuwah. Sing on the name and mention and teach on the name of YaHUSHA, his son, until he returns. This is where we'll end today's teaching, and I encourage you to do your further studying on your own with the information that has been provided and that's already out there. Shalom.